things did go awry a little bit midway through this game, late in the second, and Joe said it went till midway through the third, the offense falling apart. And it took a long time for someone to step up and stop the bleeding there. Again, you have so many ball handlers here, Jimmy. You have a lot of guys who can make plays. But even with Holiday here, and I do want to get to Holiday before we wrap the show.
We will.
It's too early, right? I don't want to overreact. He just got here 2 weeks ago. He's figuring things out. He's off the bench the first game. Now he's starting.
Are you on a Holiday now?
I just want to, and a little of this just watching the tape and looking back at his Milwaukee days. I just want to pump the brakes a little bit on the notion that he's going to come in here and solve all their offensive issues and be that every play point guard. Yeah, Jalen said it, and I think Jason came close to saying it. It's going to be a lot like Smart. There's going to be flashes of brilliance. There's going to be big playmaking games where he has 7-8 assists. But you see the turnovers tonight, some sloppy stuff from him. And you did see that in his Bucks film. Sometimes he does get stuck in between decisions, throws the ball away in the pick and roll. I think can make some tough reads. And you even saw it right before halftime. He ripped off his, headband and just stormed into the locker room, looked really frustrated. And I know, he's talked a lot about how shocking the trade was and how big of an adjustment it's been so far. He can't even find a house. Apparently, he just hasn't found a place to live yet.
Well, with mortgage rates the way they are, I mean, gotta be
so it's gonna be a transition for him. And you know what, Jimmy? I've done a lot of reporting on it. I've been grilling Joe on it. It's gonna be a starting by committee. But if you had to ask me today, who will come off the bench a week from tomorrow on opening night, I think it's gonna be Jrue.
Wow. Okay. For how long?
He'll play a ton. He'll be the sixth man. He'll have a major,
how long will he come
role.
off the bench for?
I don't know. It could vary game to game. It could take a couple of weeks while he still continues to get acclimated here, or they could find out that's the best use for him.
Over under, how many games does he start for the Celtics this year? I put it at, if the over under is 60. How about this, 50?
It's a good question. I'll go under just because I do think he'll come off the bench for this team. It's a really tough choice, Jimmy. I don't want to undermine White. I think you want Jrue out there for as much as possible, and he'll certainly close. I asked him the other day, how important starting is to him. He says he didn't care. He just, closing is what's important. But White, I don't think you're at the point where you should bench White, even if he's perfectly fine going to the bench. I think you continue to emphasize him, and he's looked so good this preseason again. Horford, I was pleasantly surprised by how well he played off the bench in this game. So that's certainly an option that I'm willing to weigh more than I was before. But while Jrue's figuring it out, and while you have this group of 5 guys who just have this awesome chemistry right now, Porzingis has been here for longer. He's really acclimated to the guys who are already here. I think you at least start the year with Jrue off the bench. And again, that doesn't mean he's going to play 20 minutes or 15 minutes. He's going to play 30 plus. And Horford's still going to reel back his minutes this year. Just means he's going to play with the second unit, going to play with the ball in his hands more. And yes, Jimmy, he'll close the game.
So the reason why, and you might be completely right, and if he comes off the bench, I think enough people have been saying it now where there's obviously some reason to believe it's a possibility. I still find it hard to believe because if Jrue Holiday is arguably the best defensive player in the NBA and certainly regarded as the best defensive guard in the NBA, why do you want to let the opponent get comfortable or get into some sort of groove to start the game? If you have a guy that is literally, regardless of whether or not, say he's not super comfortable with the offense yet, he's not a liability on the offensive end, and he's the best guard, man defender in the NBA, you can just stick him on any given night, the opposing team's best scorer, and make it a pretty miserable night for that player. I mean, opponents will tell you when they see a team, they look ahead at the schedule, they'll see a team with a player that's a great defender, and they'll just shake their head and be like, damn it, like that's not going to be fun for me that night, And so
you want him to set the tone.
I want him to set the tone. And again, I also think that, let's say he isn't familiar Well, sticking with the best players on the team and get familiar. If he's coming off the bench, you already have an unsteady bench to begin with. So, wouldn't you rather have a guy like Derek White who can anchor that second unit, mix in immediately with the starters because he has a lot of familiarity there, and that transition's a lot smoother? Again, I mean, if they're all going to play 35 minutes a game anyways, then maybe it doesn't matter that much. But for me, I almost want to punch the opposing team in the mouth right off the bat with a guy like Holiday.
Yeah, I get it. And I think there'll be some nights where that can happen. I don't know how you feel about starting by committee, but that's what Joe's talked about throughout camp, is that it could change any given night. Maybe you face a smaller
I do think it
team
might
and,
change. Yeah, sure.
yeah,
Maybe
maybe you do
Horford
face.
starts some night for all we know.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, and
White or whatever.
honestly, like, it's social media posts again. We don't watch practice, but a lot of the highlights of their scrimmages have been Porzingis and Horford playing together against Cornet in the second unit.
Mhm.
So, if that's something else you can read into right now.
Did you find it
Again,
interesting that Horford came off the bench tonight? The last game that they're going to really be playing together before the regular season.
no, I mean, I heard earlier that they were going to do that. I think it's just because they want to get this look after bringing Jrue off the bench in that first game. And Joe said throughout camp, not to read into these lineups too much. So I think it was just another look for them to try. It started strong. It really did. That first quarter was awesome. But then in the second, again, things just got disheveled. And that's still my biggest worry about them this year, Jimmy, is as much talent as they've accumulated and as many answers as they've given themselves offensively, when things get stagnant offensively and it comes down to Tatum and Brown running things and making plays, is it still really going to go stale for a quarter plus here? I mean, again, Joe said post game things fell apart late in the second, late second, and didn't get right until midway through the third. And he said the most important thing is getting out of those ruts as fast as you can. But I don't think a quarter plus is a vast amount of time to get out of a rut. I mean, they let the Knicks bench guys effectively in this game come back from down big to within single digits there. So that wasn't great. Again, I just see Holiday going through the process of acclimating to this team and, getting connected with guys and running all the plays and doing the things they do. It was interesting. He, when I talked to him the other day, he said it's more defense that he's getting used to, like all the things that they're doing defensively. But tonight, I thought he just looked a little disconnected offensively, and it might be better for him. And he did a great job with it with the Bucks. When Giannis was out, Middleton was out, and he really had to run the show. He could pour it on, scoring, playmaking, running the show.
Yeah.
So he might be a good fit for that 6-man role. And it won't be like Brogdon last year where it's 20 minutes. He'll be a 30, 35 minute per game guy off the bench. He'll be closing these games. But just to start the game, I almost feel the opposite of you, Jimmy. I know you think that Holiday can set a great tone, and he can. But I love this tone that double big sets defensively. Horford and Porzingis blocking a shot together. Porzingis running up to the pick and roll, and Horford coming around the back and just making the guy shoot it off the backboard. There were some awesome moments with those two again playing together tonight. But credit to Horford, and Tatum did give him a lot of credit tonight. I think it's tough for Horford to come off the bench. I don't think it's a comfortable position for him. In fact, in the second quarter, I didn't get to ask him tonight because he took off, but he came out of the locker room, or third quarter rather. I forget what quarter it was, but his second stint off the bench, he came out of the locker room and checked into the game. So it's a whole different process for him. I don't think it's an ego thing. I don't think it's I deserve to be a starter. I think it's just he's started his whole career. I think that's tough to adjust to, especially, working with a second unit that he's not as familiar with. So I don't know. I'm not opposed to bringing Horford off the bench. It went really well tonight. But Holiday had some ups and downs with the starters out there that I think is a factor in this team considering bringing him off the bench.